It's Phase 2, Part 2, as Elliot, now without his e-core access, must head straight to the storage facility to try and stop the explosion. But when Mr. Robot attempts to take control, it becomes a battle of wills, with Elliot quickly running out of time. It's the official Fight Club entry of Mr. Robot, Episode 3.5, Kill Process, Dotting. Hey everyone, D here, and welcome to this week's review of Mr. Robot. So yes, of course, lots of spoilers coming ahead. Alright, another really powerful episode with some nice emotional punch to it this week. Really tense, really had me riveted. Different, of course, from last week, which was just insane and groundbreaking and incredible. A little bit more traditional television on this point, but still ratcheting up the tension and just keeping you glued to the screen the entire time. And we start off today, this time with, again, a little bit of an emotional pull, a little flashback to Angela's childhood and the uncroaching death of her mom with, God, the most depressing party that's ever in existence. I mean, I understand the idea of like, look, we're going to go, let's celebrate a life while we can, as opposed to a funeral, which is doing it when everybody's dead. But that cake, see you in the next life? No, it's not a party cake. But we got to see some nice, again, we get the emotional context for Angela, where she's coming from. And I liked seeing that bit from Elliot's dad, in his actual being Elliot's dad and not the psychotic half side of him, Mr. Robot. But seeing that emotional context of it, that kind of support, how he was there to try and support Angela and try and push her to do the right thing even though it was difficult. And asking her to maybe help out Elliot at some point if he needed a bit of a push to do the right thing, to do what was necessary. Which I thought that was very sweet. I mean, honestly, this whole scene got me a little teary-eyed, especially in that goodbye to Mom, when she is talking about that wonderful world and we're going to be there and together. And you can see the little child Angela not really buying much of it, but wanting to. And I think maybe that want is really what's driving, because especially when they ended up with that, there's going to be a place where we can dance and party and love and hug and do all these great things. And we can see, especially again with that great shot transition from young Angela to older Angela, that's what's driving her. Again, that revenge against e-corp to bring back her mom. So again, really just powerful and putting Angela's motivation really in a strong emotional place. We kind of intellectually follow some of these things, but it's great when we can have a really powerful scene like that to connect us emotionally and maybe care a bit more about Angela than maybe we always do. I don't know. Sometimes I'm with her, sometimes I am not. But we do, from that, again, transition into modern times. So again, another really powerful scene. I mean, Rami Malek is just, he can do so much with that expression of anger and frustration and incredulous surprise and everything going back and forth to them, where he's really trying to reconnect and seeing where he's been betrayed and manipulated, and that personal connection that he's always going for kind of falling to the side, especially as they do their back and forth, and Angela's really trying to say, I'm doing the right thing, and brings up the whole, we're going to bring back our folks type of thing, which obviously to Elliot sounds insane, and knowing that she's talked to White Rose and how close that she is, really just blowing apart. And at the end, when she just kind of steps away and it's just like, oh, Mr. Alderson, you were fired this morning. I'm so sad to hear it, which of course is his realization that she knew all along and must have been behind all of these things. So really emotionally strong, powerful. As the opening kind of fills you with hope, this one kind of dashes down and just sees the darkness. Really, so just so much going on in those initial setups, and really gives us that push to follow Elliot throughout the rest of his day. All right, now, this week's file type, .inc, is Inc. It's an inclusive file. It is a text file that is used in programs. Basically, it's a reference file. It has headers, information variables, all sorts of things that multiple programs need access to. So that way it saves programming space because you're not having to rewrite all this information for each individual process. You can have them access just this one single text document to get all this information. And that sort of plays in with what's going on in Elliot and Mr. Robot in this episode too, which, God, there was just so much wonderfulness. I mean, everything from the struggle they're doing to the fights, which were just perfect, to the whole end result. The two of them are working off of the same bit of information. They've got the same ink file they're pulling off of, and that is, well, the paperwork's at the building, and the building is going to blow up. And they're going to trash all the file. That is what phase 2 is. That's what Elliot believes that they have been forming at. That's what Mr. Robot, as far as he knows, is happening. So we have each of them battling off of each other through the entire episode to try and stop something that actually means nothing. Because that ink file that they're both referencing doesn't have accurate information. Which is kind of the big emotional kick in the pants, really, by the end of the episode of what we went through, was everything that we saw and all of the back and forth and kind of not only their battling, but in a way also their bit of agreement at the end, which I think was a fabulous phrasing of everything and kind of taking them forward. By doing that, we almost get that moment of like, hey, it's a new day, and he's leaving and he's walking and so on, and then he comes up to that end screen where it's just boom, 71 e-corp facilities explode across the U.S. Which, you know, with Elliot feeling bad enough about possibility of one building blowing because of what he's done. Now, because he sent all the paper records to everywhere else, you know, he's pretty much going to be blaming himself for that too. Now, that battle of wills that we did get to see today, I mean, there was so much greatness. I mean, when we get the little visual stuff of the sort of static things, which we got the audio for last week. Now we get that visual, actual sort of switching that's happening as well, the little audio cues. So it was fun kind of seeing that and Elliot's like realization of what is happening just in those moments before it does. And then we're getting the time jumps, and they're getting smaller and smaller as the two of them are battling back and forth. And it's cool because, you know, so much we have seen that battle, you know, face to face with the two characters going after each other. And that's why I talk about this. Again, this really is the Fight Club episode of Mr. Robot, because much is in the end of Fight Club, where we have, the narrator trying to stop the buildings from blowing up, and of course Tyler Durden going to stop him, and they're fighting each other throughout the whole thing. But it's two of them consciously at the same time. Here they really take it different, and because Mr. Robot and Elliot haven't had their full access to each other, this I thought was a much smarter way of doing it. One, it changes things up. We don't have that back and forth, but we get the time jumps. We get the battles happening really from Elliot's perspective, which I thought was really a cool, different way of doing it, and seeing the frustration and the poor guy in that computer room. I mean, first he comes in, yeah, cool. Next time, man, you're looking a little sweaty and so on. And the third, when he just tears the whole office apart and breaks all the computers. I just love that last shot of him up against the wall like, oh, ah! I mean, it was just so much was going on with that. And then finally, when we get going down the stairs and going again quicker and quicker, just enough to trip him. And then building up to ultimately that hallway scene. Oh man, that's Fight Club right there. That's narrator and Tyler going at each other. We get to see it almost from the camera perspective. But it's not. It's the switch back and forth switch. Run down the hallway, stop, turn, wham in the head, drops down. Wake up, go a few more feet. Wham, heading there. I mean, it was just a perfect shot. Just straight down the hallway, maintaining that. So we just get to see that whacking and so. I mean, it was hilarious. Yeah, I mean, it was just, again, in the midst of all this tension, that was really funny. And then we finally get the battle at the end where it's really just the two of them talking. And again, realizing that the building's empty. Because as far as Elliot knows, he hasn't sent the stuff there. He's just trying to save the people in the building. Which, of course, Angela is assuming has been cleared. I wonder how she's going to be feeling about those other e-corp buildings after this. And even the whole call-in for the bomb threat, I thought that was just hilarious. Yeah, I'm calling it a bomb threat with no bombs, so of course they're going to let everybody back in. So he knows that it's not there, but because Mr. Robot can't access Elliot's memory, which is why they have to do the little text arguments discussions back and forth. It was a great way of building to that eventual moment, really holding the tension, and then finally, in a way, bringing them together to stop what is effectively a pointless exercise. Not quite as pointless as maybe they realized, but still pointless. And I love that final shot that we had as Elliot sees and he pulls the fire control and it sends all the halogen down and everything to stop the fire. And he walks out of the room, and as he turns, it's Mr. Robot that walks past the window. That was just such a perfect sign of the two of them working together. Which, yeah, Mr. Robot has his issues, but Angela was right when he told Elliot, yeah, well, that's you. Yeah, there's the you, Elliot, but Mr. Robot is also him. And Tyrell, yeah, I am surprised he's not dead. Really, I was just like Tyrell had thought for that moment. I was pretty sure his job was just to take him out. We've had that implied, it was like we found Tyrell, we got to move on to the stage, take care of it. What is in the note that Irving gave him? We'll probably find out a little bit more. So this is total speculation, which I'm sure will be filled up next week. But I'm assuming from this point the plan is for Tyrell to act as if he was held captive against his will by the Dark Army, maybe forced to do some things, and then he had just escaped as Dom was coming in, which is why I started the fire, to make it look like some way to get out. Looks like he'd handcuffed the bed like he was going to handcuff himself to it, but it was gone, and then as he runs out saying, oh God, please, we've got to stop it, to try and make him look like the hero. Now he's not gonna be back with Joanne because his wife is dead, which might have been what Irving was saying I am sorry for. Not really sure what he was referring to. So that means this could be the only way that he gets connected with his kid, because we know that Joanne is dead, but how all of that played out, are they still going to have it that, the bartender saw the thing, was able to frame the big guy, so the murder is off of Wellick, and then through this they can pull all of the Dark Army, the 5-9 off of Wellick, and therefore let him re-enter his life with his kid. Feeling that's what we're going for. I'm not thinking that Tyrell suddenly had a giant gauge of consciousness and decided to run out and spill his beans to everyone. Also, what was the idea? Was he supposed to kill himself because Joanne was gone, or something was up with this kid? I don't really see that with Tyrell. Not that ready to give up. So that's my thought. Not really sure what's happening, but yeah, that is the other thought. The other thing is when we have Mr. Robot battling with Elliot, we do have to remember that Tyrell made all of those second phase 2 plans after Mr. Robot started turning back into Elliot, after their dual personalities started falling apart. So Angela took Mr. Robot back to her apartment, and that's when Tyrell told Irving, okay, I've got a way to fix this, because he had realized everything that Elliot had done, not sending the paperwork to the main building, and that's why he asked that he needs the complete power of the Dark Army at his fingertips. Why? Because that was his plan, to go and send it to those 71 buildings and have those taken out. If you can't move the records to the main building, then just take out all the buildings where the records are. 71 of them. And Dom. Not a whole lot with Dom to talk about. Really, it's just, I got a feel for her. She is trying to do her job the best she can, and her boss is working for the enemy. I think she might be starting to get suspicious. Certainly knows that he likes to drag his butt. And I love that whole sequence of events where Elliot tells Darlene about the bombs and about Tyrell. Then, of course, Darlene tells Dom tells Santiago, and Santiago stalls. Yeah, we'll send down some surveillance, we'll take a look, we want to be sure, And then as soon as he leaves, goes ahead and calls what I thought was Irving, but I think someone else from Dark Army that he connects up with there, considering the conversation getting to White Rose there. And he obviously knows what the actual plan is because he calls up his mom and says to stay home, don't leave the house. I'm not sure if she was planning on going to an e-corp storage shopping facility for her insure, but still, insight that he knew something. And those types of trails will probably end up catching up to him also. But really, it's that whole scene at Red Wheelbarrow. I mean, in fact, of the whole luncheon, even from the top where she is trying to get... where they're sitting there staring at the surveillance, the phone hasn't moved and the reference hasn't moved, which I'm assuming Elliot had just dropped that phone off at Red Wheelbarrow, and that's why it kept popping up as being at that location. But I love just the idea of she's so bored. She's like, all right, got to get down there. And trying to sneakily tell her partner, hey, you want to grab some lunch? Are you hungry? And he's just totally oblivious about the whole thing. And great music in that scene too. I mean, all of it was just, it was just very cool, very Dom moment. But once she gets down there, and we found out some interesting information. Red Wheelbarrow's been open for 6 weeks, which I think is about as long as really the season since Elliot got shot. So that must have been right around the time. I know we did a little bit of stuff last season, so maybe an extra week or so, but really a tight frame point right there. But a really tense scene when she went down into the basement and just all of the smoke, and we know that Tyrell was down there. Is he going to pop out? Is he going to run out? Is there something else going on? It was a wonderfully done scene. And again, also really showing Dom by herself. She does things by herself. She usually doesn't have backup. Even her guy is just out in the car watching the back to see if Tyrell runs out. She doesn't wait for anybody. She is ready to tackle it, and for good reason, because again, boss is on the take. But it was a great scene, really, with the smoke, with not being able to see everything, holding that tension and wondering what was going on with Tyrell down there at the same time. Just really magnificently done. Oh, and of course, we can't wrap things up without talking about Price and White House. The scene with it, there was so much being said right there. You know, it's like the two conspirators get together to pass information. Hey, it's right, it's done. So now you got your vote. It's annexed. And so I hope the whole e-coin thing is going to be released. And I love White Rose's response. All will be settled by end of day. Yeah, he's not talking about the e-coin thing. He's talking about bearing Price right there. Which I thought was just kind of a perfect response. But even more to the point, when they say the statement of, okay, it's done, we don't have to be enemies, we can relax and enjoy, and it's just dead quiet between the two of them. They got nothing. There is no social interaction. I mean, there's that brief attempt at small talk, which of course ends in a cruel joke. Hanging brain. Yeah, that's going to stay in my brain for a while. But even that's it. Once they get to that one story, the quick joke, and then boom, quiet again. They've got nothing. There is no joy. There's no social life. There's no levity. Certainly not between the two of these people. And really not a whole lot, I think, necessarily in their own lives. Price has his own desires and affectations that he pursues, and White Rose, of course, very focused on what she wants. So really, just a perfect scene of seeing rich, powerful people having nothing to do. All right, just a couple of small things. One, the conference room that Elliot was working in, with the ugly, was that pike or barracuda on the wall, painted to match the wall. If it's like they just put it on there, it was there, and they just painted the whole wall and everything over it. Nice kind of a blue-green, no it's not, it was a horrible color. But the idea of the pike or barracuda, very fast attack ship, kind of sneaky, popping in and out of the dark. I was wondering if that was kind of a relative point of Mr. Robot there working behind the scenes, working to attack Elliot at any moment. Definitely symbolism involved with it, but totally ugly color. The Girl Scouts showing up at Darlene's apartment just as she's running out. Yeah, bad timing indeed. I don't know, I just thought that scene was really amusing. Of course, either Elliot is a magnificent pickpocket or the security guards at e-corp facilities are definitely super dense. Really wait to the last second to try and get in. He's in that big line and just waits till he gets right up to the guard and just snick, pull that out. I mean, useful. Guess the guard's card can get you into just about anywhere, but just that was the one moment where I was like, okay, that felt a little pushed. Okay, well, I think that just about wraps everything up. So, yeah, just as Elliot thinks that he has a win in his pocket, that maybe the future is going to be a little bit brighter, no, it's not. Horrible attack. Like I said, 71 buildings. You know Elliot's going to be blaming himself for all that. And how is Angela going to be feeling with all those numbers coming down? Price, this might be the end game for him, but what is the Dark Army's next move? If this is phase 2 and they have just finally completed it, is this the move forward to whatever time travel experiment might be happening? And is Angela finally going to get everyone back that she wants? Of course not. It's certainly not going to go that smoothly. I have to wait till next week to find out. So, if you did enjoy this review, please go ahead and hit that like button. Thoughts, ideas, and comments, throw those down in the section below. What did you think about the episode? Did you like the whole Tyler Durden narrator fight going on in the hallway? And where do you think things are going now that phase 2 is done? What is the next step in White Rose's plan? Anyway, thoughts? Throw those down. You can always catch me on Twitter and Instagram. I am at Darren Jakes. But please, if you're not a subscriber, do so. It's quick, it's easy, it's just one button you have to press. You'll catch the rest of Mr. Robot, Dirk Gently's The Walking Dead. S.H.I.E.L.D. returns on the 1st of December, and then next year we, of course, Legion and American Gods. Don't miss any of those. You won't if you're a subscriber. Become one by clicking my face right here. And I'll go up and throw up our last couple of reviews right here. You can check those out. All right, so that's going to be it for me. I'm D, and I'm out of here. Catch you guys next time. Bye-bye.